Good afternoon, everybody. This is Koi with Fightin Fanatics, Young Lions stream number, whichever one this one is, I don't remember. Joining me today is Demonic Dem.
That's me.
Oh God, it's echoing.
That was me. I opened up the stream on my phone.
Oh.
Oops.
Oops. There you go. Well, here we are. Tianhuo, offense-based neutral. We're gonna be talking a whole lot about what the heck a neutral is. I know we've done neutral streams in the past, but I don't remember what was covered back then, and we gotta establish some concepts before we actually talk about Tianhuo and how she plays neutral. Here we have our young lions back here. We're learning all about Tianhuo neutral. This one's the only one paying attention, though. All the other ones are looking at that guy. I don't know who that is. But yeah, alright. Let's see here. Where do we start? We're talking about neutral, right? What is a neutral? Right.
I don't know, but lots of fighting game people like to talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Even when it's not relevant.
Oh yeah. Especially when it's not relevant. Alright, so let's do a hello Wishy Washy, welcome. So let's see. Is this a neutral?
No.
No? Oh. Is this a neutral?
We're getting there, but not yet.
Is this a neutral?
I think this is neutral.
Oh, I think neutral just ended.
Oh shit.
Alright.
Can't have that happen.
So a quick refresher on what neutral is. It's when neither player is at a distinct advantage. Both players have access to their characters. They can do whatever they want, technically. No one's getting put in block stun. No one is getting comboed. This isn't happening, you know. Both players can just move around, do what they want to do. And yeah. So, last Young Lion stream... Oh yeah, they did put more Longmas in the background. Say hello to our new students. I don't think any of them have names yet. They probably have names in the files or something, I don't know.
We'll give them names.
I can't do that right now. My brain is not ready to be giving things names.
I don't know Longman names.
Tianhuo.
Tianhuo 1 and 2 and 3.
Tianhuo 3. Electric Tianhuo Lu. Okay, let's see. So, we're talking about offensive neutral here. Last stream, they talked about defensive neutral, specifically zoning, specifically with Velvet. This time we're going to talk about offensive neutral. So, we're going to start with basics. What is your goal when you're doing offensive neutral? Obviously, it's to, you know, hit the opponent. You want to get in, you want to apply your pressure, you know. You want to hit them with your overheads. You want to put them into a spot where you can run your offensive game on them. And, you know, sounds simple enough. You just, you know, get close to them and hit them, right? You know, it's easy. Just hit them. But it's not always that easy. Obviously, there's ways for people to stop you from doing that. For example, if, you know, you're trying to jump at people, they can kind of just anti-air you. And if you're trying to dash at people, they sometimes can just, you know, smack you with a counter poke. So it's not always so simple as just, you know, go in and hit someone, you know. Can't always do what you want in neutral. Other people can do things too. There are options on both sides. So, what do you do if you're so easily countered by these things like anti-airs? Oh no, I can't get in. Help. Trying to jump at the opponent. I'm trying to hit them. Oh no, now I lost. Okay. So the way you deal with this... I feel like I'm going very fast through these notes. Let's see. Yep, the opponent can counter poke you, the opponent can air dash, not air dash, anti-air you. That's probably the biggest one. Most people start off when they are first learning to play fighting games. The most common approach option they'll use is jump at the opponent.
Well done.
But
Again.
Any mid-level or higher player, most of the time, will be able to stop this on reaction. It's not the best defensive strategy, mostly because when you're jumping at people, you're kind of giving up a lot of your options. Like, we'll talk about how Tianhuo kind of breaks this trend, but in general in fighting games, when you jump at someone, you lose control over your actual options. You can no longer, you know, you can't dash. You can't use any of your grounded buttons. Usually you can't use your grounded throws or your grounded supers. This game, Tianhuo has an air super, so she kind of breaks that trend there as well. She can use her super in the air if she wants. Punish.
Thanks.
And at the same time, if you try to go on the ground, you know, you can get smacked. Normally your optimal offensive range is somewhere like right here. You want to be really close to them where you can hit them with your lows. But if you're at this range, you try to dash up to get to that range, you're just gonna get hit a lot. So if you can't approach on the ground and you can't approach in the air, what do? Because both of them, you know, jump attacks are nice because when you hit someone with it, it's a nice easy combo, and if they block the attack, then, you know, you get your pressure on them. If they push block, you can still follow up. So one thing that you can do is, as one of our wonderful chat members said, you mix it up. So there's a certain thing in the fighting game community that some people refer to. It's called the mental stack. It's basically the concept where people can only prioritize a set amount of things on their mind at a time. Like, you can only really be worrying about so many options at a time. So if you're jumping at the opponent a lot, they're gonna have anti-airing you as part of their, you know, plan, as part of their mental stack. That's what they're focused on. So if they're constantly trying to go for anti-airs, you know, you can get punishes on their anti-airs. Or if they're so focused on watching for your anti-airs, they're always looking to see if you're gonna jump, then you can sneak in a grounded approach because they're so focused on the air game. And then you can get whiff punishes if they're not reacting properly and they're just doing anti-airs because they think you're gonna do one. They think you're gonna jump. So even if you play the very basic neutral strategy of either jump at the opponent or go in on the ground, you can still make that effective so long as you mix up your options appropriately to what your opponent is doing. That's one of the big things about neutral in general, especially on offense, is that you have to kind of pay attention to how your opponent's responding to what you're doing, and then proactively change what it is that you're doing. And the jump versus ground approach is such an effective tool for this because oftentimes grounded pokes will lose out to jump attacks. It's like trying to preemptively press, like, you know, 5B or 5A. You know, you could whiff punish them. And then if you're on the ground, that 6A isn't really going to do much for them. It's punishable on block, they don't cancel it. Definitely punishable on whiff. You kind of just fake out the opponent by switching between your options as often as you can. Yeah, you can fly in and out to make them whiff things. We're basically going through all of the basics of neutral really quick, just to establish concepts that are important for how Tianhuo does her things. So far, we've got, you know, you have your basic grounded approach, you know, get in and hit them. You know, that's usually what you want to be doing. You want to be hitting them on the ground because you have options to your lows, which you don't when you're jumping. And jumping is nice because it gets you up there really quick, and if they block the jump attack, you know, you're a lot better off, because you can start actual pressure off of that. But both of them have their weaknesses, and we're going to talk about how to counter those weaknesses really quick. As we said, you can switch between the two, because no matter what your opponent is doing, if they're not blocking, like, if they're attacking, they can't block. And that means that you can punish them for whatever they're trying to do. As we said, you can jump in on their grounded attacks and punish them on whiff. And if they are trying to anti-air you, you know, you can block and punish that, or whiff punish it, stuff like that. So a very effective beginning strategy is just mixing between your air attacks, the timing of your air attacks to make sure that they're not always consistently anti-airing you. If you're too predictable, you're gonna get smacked. But if you try to mix it up every now and then, see. Wow, I'm so bad at instant air dashes.
Oh, you even have a hitbox.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes the opponent is so good at anti-airing you, like all the time, you know, you just can never actually get the jump in, which means that you can't effectively stop the ground attacks. Because, you know, if you can't jump in, then how are you gonna dash in and get past those buttons? So, this is where, the age-old term of footsies comes in. So, if you can't stop a grounded approach with your air attacks because they're too consistent at anti-airing, then, you know, you're gonna have to deal with a lot of grounded attacks. You're gonna have to deal with zoning, you're gonna have to deal with buttons that are placed preemptively to hit you. A lot of times people aren't reacting to your attacks, they're just putting out the button when they think you're gonna approach. So, what you can do is, you can stay at a range where you're just barely out of the range of their pokes, and you can whiff punish them. So you know that they're gonna press the buttons because you can't go in the air, so they kind of have to stop you like this. Because if they don't do that, then you can just dash up and get pressure. They have to put something out there to make you stop. So, you know, if you establish a threat range, if you stay at a range, like obviously, in real fighting towards neutral, we wouldn't be walking, we'd be more like, you know, doing all sorts of nonsense, because you know, the neutral in this game is so fast. But if you establish a range, or, you know that they're gonna try to stop you, and you just, you know, do a quick dash forward with punish. Yeah. That's basically how you deal with grounded pokes if you are not able to jump in at the opponent properly. You kind of have to make a bit of a read on when they're going to press their button, and you have to react to that read and whiff punish them. And you have to stay at a nice specific range. Like, if you ever watch high-level Street Fighter, you see a lot of this nonsense going on. And it's
What's
a very
the term
important
for
concept.
that?
It's footsies.
Footsies, yes.
Footsies. Or Tekken. Definitely Tekken. Tekken is all about footsies. It's all about the range game. So, you basically want to... If you can't get in with jumps, and you have to play a grounded game, that's the way you do it, is you kind of have to scare the opponent into committing to something, because if they don't commit to something, you know, you just get in close, and you hit them with your mix. Get in close, you get your grabs, you get your throws, whatever it is. People don't want an offensive character to be close to them. They don't want Arizona next to them, they don't want Tianhuo next to them, they don't want Paprika next to them. So, they're gonna put stuff out there. They're gonna put projectiles out, they're gonna put buttons out, and we're gonna talk about zoning as well in a bit. But, if they're putting out pokes, your strategy is to fake an approach. You know, you can do this by forward dashing and, like, blocking low, so, you know, they see the initial part of the dash. Let's see. And then, you know, if you read that they're gonna try to, you know, counter poke you, and react to that, and get your hit. And the second you land a hit in neutral, neutral's over. The whole goal is to land that hit, or even to make them block something. If you make someone block something, even as Tianhuo, you know, you're plus if you flight cancel. It's still your turn, and if they push block you, then, you know, you're back to neutral, unless you get like unless you stay in with something like a flip.
Or a dash.
Or a dash, you know. You can flight cancel and an air dash to stay in. But essentially, once you actually land that hit on the opponent, you know, you could dash in and make them block something, or you can, you know, dash in and get an actual hit. But your main goal is to get close enough to actually hit them, and to keep that pressure going. And they're gonna try to stop you, and you're gonna have ways to deal with that. You can, you know, jump over their pokes, or you can whiff punish their pokes, whichever is ideal for the situation. Let's see here. So, I'm already thirsty because I'm doing a lot of talking. Let's see. There is a lot to talk about with footsies, but that was just kind of a basic summary. It's basically the game of people trying to stop approaches with preemptive buttons, and then people trying to stop those preemptive buttons by purposely not approaching and then whiff punishing. And then once the opponent is too scared to press those preemptive buttons anymore because they keep getting whiff punished, then you go in for the regular approach, you know? It's kind of like a triangle. Another key part of offensive offense, especially when you're dealing with zoning, is something that I like to call bulldogging. I think I picked that up from, I don't know, some fighting game community, probably Street Fighter. And the art of bulldogging is basically, you're basically approaching and then blocking, you know. You forward dash and you block. Forward dash block, you know. And what this does is it moves you closer to the opponent, but it also lets you block very quickly. So that if they try to stop you with something that's minus, you'll be close and more able to punish or challenge them. Like, let's say, if this were Palm, and they were doing Palm 2C, which is really unsafe, but it's a really good long-range move. If you were to bulldog towards them, you would block it, and you'd be close enough where you could possibly get a punish on them. And if you're bulldogging, even if the opponent makes you block buttons, especially in this game, like, they can just push block you as you're going in. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna bulldog towards you. You're gonna 5B me.
Okay.
So, obviously this is not as fast-paced as it might be otherwise, but I'm slowly gaining ground on them, and I'm slowly pushing them towards the corner. And that's important as an offensive-based character, offense-based character. It's very good to be patient when you're playing an offensive character, you know, a rushdown, so to speak. Because oftentimes your time to strike is not going to be all the time. It's often going to be only when the opponent messes up or you make a hard read. And if you push someone to the corner, they can't move backwards anymore. And that's very important for being able to whiff punish things, because one of the challenges of whiff punishing is that the opponent can also just move backwards out of your range, and then you have to walk forwards again, or move forwards to get back into your threatening range. And denying them the option to even back up is so powerful that you can, you know, if he can't move backwards, I have all of the real estate. I have all of the power on what our range is. I have full control over the range game. He can only move forward, and moving forward is often risky when I can put out my own buttons. Similarly, in this game, you can air block. So it's actually possible to approach with something like a super jump into blocking, especially against zoners. This is really good against zoners, because it lets you move forward and above projectiles and still block things like anti-airs. And then you can push block them more towards the corner if they happen to try to anti-air you. So overall, especially in this game, patient blocking and moving forward at the same time is a very good strategy. And this applies for all the rushdown characters, not just Tianhuo. It's especially important for things like Paprika and Arizona. If you play those characters, it's kind of necessary, especially versus like Velvet and Oleander. Against other offense-based characters, it's not as important, but it's still very helpful to move people towards the corner. And to, you know, just not let them hit you with their pokes because, you know, you're getting closer. Oftentimes things like, you know, Arizona stomps are unsafe, so if you manage to dash block in towards a stomp, you might have a chance of punishing it, stuff like that. Okay. Now we're gonna start talking a little bit more about actual Tianhuo things specifically. So, part of your job as a rushdown character is to establish a sort of threat range, so to speak. So, every character has a range where they could possibly at any moment, you know, jump forward and make you block something, or dash forward and hit you with a button. There's like a certain range. For Tianhuo, it's like, let's see if we can see this. Like right around here, I would say. She can quickly dash forward and 5B you, or she can do an air dash jump B. So there's like a range for every character where if they make you block something or they hit you with something, you know, that's trouble. And that's why neutral in this game is so hectic, because a lot of characters have such a long threat range that, you know, you have a lot of screen real estate to get out of that range, and you have a lot of mobility to, you know, back up away from that. You know, this looks like it's pretty far, but this range really is like where Tianhuo is effective, like right here. She can kind of just at any moment do that, or at any moment, you know, do something like this.
Yeah.
So,
and knowing that your opponent can be moving forward also means that the threat range sort of extends.
Yeah. If both of you move forward, all of a sudden this could be a dangerous range because they could forward dash and you could like instant air dash. Or you could both instant air dash or something like that.
Which happens a lot in Tien mirrors.
Yes, it does. So, when you're playing neutral, you have to account for how your opponent might move, which is important, and how you want to move in conjunction to that. If they're backdashing a lot, you're obviously going to want to move forward a lot. If they're forward dashing a lot, sometimes you have to be the one to put out preemptive buttons. Other times, you know, you want to abuse that forward dash by... Because if they move forward into your threat range and you read that, you can really catch them off guard with a sudden move. Stuff like that. So, you usually want to establish a range that you can threaten them with multiple options that they have to deal with in different ways. For example, you know, the air dash that is only really interruptible by a well-timed poke or anti-air, and then the forward dash into like something like a low, which can only really be stopped by preemptive pokes. So, if you manage to keep in a range where you can threaten both of those, and you force the opponent to deal with them often enough that they, you know, they don't feel comfortable at that range, because they know that you're going to try to do something, and they don't know which one it's going to be, and if you properly punish those options enough, you know, they're going to feel even more pressured once you're in that area. So if you're sticking at a proper range, and they're freaking out because they know that you might whiff punish them, and then they also know that if they don't try to put out buttons or anti-airs, that you're just gonna go in. That's kind of the mix of footsies overall, is obviously, you know, dashing forward and just applying pressure is what you want to do, but people can stop that, and so you have strategies that can stop that, and then once you use those strategies to stop that, i.e. whiff punishing and stuff like that, they're gonna be less likely to try to press buttons in neutral to stop you because they are afraid, and then you can just go in for your regular pressure. And it kind of just... it's like rock, paper, scissors. A lot of fighting games is kind of like rock, paper, scissors in that regard.
Yeah. For characters with more health, it often... sometimes you do want to be putting out buttons more, simply because they can survive it if they mess up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Tianhuo's not the tankiest character, so usually you don't want to be getting smacked by buttons. It might be a bit more important for you to use your mobility and bait out buttons and anti-airs. It's also possible to, what do you say? Against zoners, sometimes your threat range that you want to be at is closer than normal, because you want to be in a position where you can counter-hit their fireballs. And fireballs are good because, you know, they establish space and they're disjointed, but if you hit them at a startup, then, you know, the fireball doesn't happen and you get a punish on it. So, where was I going with this? I don't know. If you stay close enough, you keep them from using the fireballs, which are things that you can't exactly whiff punish, and that forces them to actually use their regular buttons, which you can whiff punish. But of course, you have to actually play a bit of a patient neutral game to get to that range to begin with against a zoner. Let's see. Yeah, I didn't expect this beginning review to take too long. We're almost at the 30-minute mark. That's what I thought it would be. Let's see. We already talked about that. Again, you're gonna want to adjust what you're doing based on what the opponent's doing. What if you finally make your approach and they just use an invincible reversal? I don't know how many invincible reversals are good for neutral game, but that's kind of similar to, like, you know, baiting grounded normals or baiting anti-airs. You just have to do a certain option that beats that option. Part of the whole neutral game is, yeah, it's knowing what your opponent can do and what they want to do.
Yeah, like and for often, Velvet, if a Velvet DPs, a lot of good ways is to jump over the DP and then counter hit them.
Yeah, and also a lot of the time, as we've been discussing, a lot of this has to do with you doing certain things to make the opponent want to do certain things. Like, you know, it may seem obvious, but like, if you're dashing at the opponent, they're going to want to hit you out of that dash. But you could do that on purpose to make them press buttons, and then you can then exploit that, because they're not blocking if they're hitting buttons. That's the important thing about all of this, is that if the opponent is trying to anti-air you or counterpoke you, they're not blocking. And blocking is important.
Did you mention you can dash forward and block?
Oh, yes. You can dash...
Like,
yeah. This game actually allows you to dash forward and then block. And you can also block high while the forward dash animation is going. So you can move forward and block high at the same time. Like,
which is really big for Tianhuo because she already low profiles a lot of stuff.
Yeah, her forward dash is... it's tiny. Look at her. You can see her hurt box. It's so small. So her forward dash is particularly good. For, how do you say? Patient approaches.
Yeah. Or going through projectiles.
Because, yeah, it goes through projectiles, and it goes under a lot of jump attacks. So if you happen to be dashing forward and they go for a jump attack, you'll often be safe. And
if you're holding mid, or aka blocking high, then, you know, you'll be able to block the jump attacks anyway.
Yep. So, more or less, you kind of just want to mix up between regular approaches where you actually just, like, try to go in and start your pressure, with, baiting, whiff punishes, stuff like that. You want to bait them into pressing a button by threatening your range, but not actually going there. And then once they get uncomfortable with pressing their buttons because you're whiff punishing them too much, then you can go back to actually doing your regular game. And that's not even counting for the air game yet, which we're going to get into. As we established at the beginning, the air game can be hard to use for most characters because a lot of the time they don't have mobility options outside of just jumping and pressing a button, and that just makes jumps very hard to utilize in neutral for them. So characters like Velvet, characters like, I don't know, maybe Palm. Palm has an air dash, but it's not quite as good as what Tianhuo has going for her, which we're gonna get into. So, if you consider what we talked about with the ground game, where a lot of it has to do with making the opponent uncomfortable with their responses to your pressure, so like, you know, making them less likely to want to challenge you, and therefore being able to get in on them and make them block your pressure because they're not trying to stop you anymore, or because they're scared to stop you, and then exploiting their attempts to stop you if they actually, you know, start doing that again. You know, the back and forth of, you know, going in and then responding to them trying to stop you from going in until they stop trying to make you stop going in again. You know, the rock, paper, scissors of neutral. Tianhuo can do that in the air, which not a lot of characters can do, and that's part of where she shines in neutral, and a lot of what her neutral strategy involves. Because you could play that ground game that a lot of characters already have access to, because Tianhuo's got, you know, she has this button, which is really good. It moves her forward. It's good for whiff punishing. It's pretty quick. She's got that long disjointed low, which lets her, you know, threaten between that and the instant air dash. The instant air dash itself is already pretty hard to, how do you say, whiff punish? You try to car throw?
I'm not trying, I am, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But Tianhuo's whole thing is that she can do all of that, the whole situation of baiting responses and punishing them. She can do that in the air too, which not a lot of characters can do. And that's because she has access to a ton of air mobility. Like, you know, she's got the super jump, which right away lets her get in closer against zoners faster than usual. It's one of the benefits of a super jump, is that you can kind of just super jump into block, and then that gets you forward really far and, you know, block the projectiles on your way down. But part of the problem with super jumps, and why they're not as effective for other characters, is that you can't do anything besides attack out of them. So you could get mixed up on the way down, or you could get anti-aired if you try to press a button on the way down. And it's very telegraphed. But Tianhuo
Yeah.
has ways to not care. Well, not necessarily not care, but she has the options to make it more effective. Like this. She has dive kicks. If you're familiar with fighting games, you know that dive kicks are very good at baiting air options, or anti-air options. She has flight, for example. Let's see here. And she can use flight to stall her descent. She has... Let's see. She has air dashes, which can surprise cross-up people before they're even ready to anti-air, because it makes her go down a lot faster. Don't give Arizona a plus unblock dive kick. Imagine, though. Can you imagine? She has the flips. The flips are nice because it lets her, for example, she could super jump forward, and then backdash, air dash, and then go in with the flip again. Stuff like that. So, using these tools, you know, you can bait people into trying to anti-air you because, you know, you're going in from the air, but you can still punish them because you can stall your descent, similar to you can whiff punish a grounded button because you're stalling your approach. That's probably the best example of it, is just super jumping, and then at the apex you just fly, and then go with a descending jump C. And that works really well. You can also just air dash backwards, and even if the opponent doesn't hit you... Why am I not getting air dashes? There we go. Even if they don't hit you, necessarily, you know, they're not getting anything out of that whiffed anti-air, and they're just like, okay, is there any point in me anti-airing right now, or should I try to do something else on their way down? And that can open them up to actually getting smacked. Yep, and then you can flip after the backwards air dash. Just never ends.
Yeah, Tianhuo has a lot of ways of staying in, but also ways to stay out and then go back in.
Yeah, she can fake you out a lot in neutral, and that's part of what makes her neutral strong. A big part of neutral is being unpredictable on purpose in a way that makes your opponent predictable, more or less. And if you're unpredictable, you know, and you think the opponent's going to try to do something in response to, you know, what you think they're going to predict you're doing, like, oh, look, he's super jumping, he's going to come down with a normal, etc. And
yeah.
Tianhuo just has like 30 options to stop that. She can, you know, use the dive kick. Let's see.
I mean, to make it clear, it doesn't say counter hit there, but I am holding block. It's
Yeah,
just
he can't block after that. She can dive kick. So,
also, the dive kick's nice because she moves forward slightly, and so even if it's they can block, they might be getting crossed up if you do that. So like
that.
Like that.
That's a cross up. She's got flight. The flight is probably one of the big ones that makes her neutral very interesting because she can move. She's not very fast, but it can definitely fake people out, and you can air dash out of it at any moment. And doing that, like for example, you know, she can fall down with a normal jump C, or she could start falling down and then air dash and then get a cross-up jump C, stuff like that. And she can do this a lot.
It's very good against characters who have charge, so aka Paprika.
Paprika and Palm, for example. One of the big things, like, we were talking about establishing a threat range. One of the big threats that Tianhuo can establish from this range also makes it very strong for her. She can just super jump forward and then fly over your head. And that kind of just ends neutral for her. Like, it's still technically neutral because she's not technically putting you in block pressure or a combo. But she's putting you in a scenario where you're not in a good state for neutral because it can mix up your 6A direction. And even if, you know, you do get a 6A, you don't know when she's going to come down. She can come down early, she can air dash and go away. You can air dash, and then, let's see, you air dash, and then come back in. It's one of the biggest neutral things that she has going for her overall. Let's see. So I think a very good Tianhuo neutral strategy overall is a mixture of instant air dashes. The instant air dash is important because it can catch people off guard. It can hit people who are trying to dash block.
Well done.
Like if someone's trying to dash forward and then block low, and you just instant air dash, you know, they might not be ready for that. It can often hit grounded buttons. So like, it can whip punish stuff just as easily as something like this can. It can often punish things like fireballs. Like, you can air dash over Oleander's fireball, and
Yeah, you can instant air dash over grounded fireballs just automatically. That's one of so Tianhuo can either dash underneath the fireballs, or she can instant air dash over them. But a lot of Oleanders like to use aerial fireballs, so you can't instant air dash over those.
Right. And that's part of the reason why you can't always be in the air. Similar to being on the ground, a lot of your options mean you can't block. So if the opponent is doing certain anti-air options, like Velvet's Snowflakes, for example, or if another Tianhuo is calling you out with their own super jumps and sniping you out of your flight, you know, you can't always stick with one option. And that's part of the important things about neutral. As we stated earlier, people can only focus on a few options that you're presenting at a time. Like, they can only be looking for certain things. And if you constantly mix up what you're going for in an unpredictable fashion, you'll catch them off guard, even if, you know, even if technically, like, if someone were on point, they could always anti-air your air dashes and your, yeah. Like, you're fighting against a good Arizona or a good, Oleander, and they just smack you out of all of these without really, trying. Or at least it doesn't seem like they're trying. You're probably being too predictable. Because this isn't the easiest thing to react to. But because you're doing it a lot, they're focused on that, and therefore they have an easier time predicting when it'll happen and reacting to that accordingly.
I'm not a good Arizona, so I can't do that right now. But just imagine I were. Yeah, okay, I'll try it. Maybe I'll do it against the good Arizona. Tianhuo has also... She has a slower anti-air, so that's something else you have to watch out for on the defense side. But if you really, like, predict it... See, that's the whole thing, is if you're being predictable, then they can just predict it.
That. It's more than 3. It's 5.
Now it's my turn.
It's 5 frames difference, I think. Is it? No, it's 4. It's 8 frames and 12 frames.
Are you
asking?
Are you talking about
frames. Yeah, I'm talking about the difference
anti-airs?
between. Yeah, I'm talking about the difference between Arizona 6A and Tianhuo 6A. But even when I do hit my 6As as Arizona, they're mostly out of prediction. And also because a lot of Tianhuos do slower air dashes as well. Like, they'll do like that.
You have to, like, really get in.
There you go.
There we go.
Again.
I was trying to jab out to see if that would get it, but it went a little above it.
Part of the reason why I went so in-depth on the ground game at the start is because while Tianhuo's air neutral game is strong, and it has, you know, very good application against a lot of matchups, it can be easy to fall into a pattern with it, and, like, only do instant air dashes, or only do super jump fly, and, like, come down at predictable timings. And the big thing you gotta do is be unpredictable with what you're gonna do, what side you're gonna land on, when you're gonna duck back in with one of these, you know, you could always jump back and do one of these. A lot of people jump back and then air dash forward, and he even hit me with it, yeah.
It's a thing I see a lot, and it's really not good against certain characters like Arizona, because if you keep doing that, then they can very easily 4D you.
Yeah, they can rope you, they can 6A you. Oh yeah, her low profile dash is really good for grounded neutral.
Yeah, especially against zoners.
Because, like, yeah, the super jump and all that is nice too, but if you want to be unpredictable, you have options. You got ways to get under all the projectiles. And it can be a bit risky to go for sometimes because, if you do dash forward into high block like this, where you still move forward. Oleander can like hit you with her sweep, and that will hurt a lot. Velvet can hit you with eruptions if you're not careful, which are lows.
Imagine I'm doing that. Yeah, also bash. Not something you want to be using as neutral all the time, but a lot of times it's better against certain block strings. So be careful about that. But if they're being predictable with how they're throwing out their area, their projectiles, you can often bash through things as well.
Similarly, the thing with Tianhuo is that the second she leaves the ground, there's like 30 different things she could be doing. And there's a bit of a different timing to deal with all of those different things. Like, even right here, like the anti-air timing between something like this and something like this. Like, obviously that's more reactable, but it's still a different timing. And then you could also, you know, do a super jump into it. Oh god, I gotta crash. Oh no. Oh no! There we go. Like, this has a different height, and you can come down at different timings. And if you're above certain anti-airs, you're really trying to crash me.
Not anymore. It's over.
Something like this, if they don't respond in time, they'll get crossed up. Like, he responded in time there. But there, it's just like, oh, whoops, I got crossed up. There's a lot of creativity you can have with this sort of neutral style. If you ever seen Marvel, see a whole lot of nonsense going on.
Oh yeah, and a little fact that is not entirely obvious, but while moving diagonally, you move at the same horizontal speeds as you would be moving when you're moving left and right, and the same vertical speeds as when you're moving up and down. So your total speed is faster when moving diagonally. So sometimes if you really need to get out of there, moving diagonally is your better option. Because then you're moving at the same speed on 2 planes of movement, as opposed to just one.
There you go. Obscure Tianhuo facts.
Yeah.
Ah yes, the funny flying. The art of mixing up when you're gonna come down while you're flying. Nice circles. I can't do circles on this. Not in any effective manner. Uh-oh, that crossed me up.
Yeah, Ash crosses up when you're not expecting it to. And then it, yeah.
There you go. Another thing we didn't talk about.
Oh yeah, 6D. 6D is like a... especially useful against Paprikas and Arizonas. Paprikas if they're using one of their gifts, and also a lot of their cartwheels can be hit out of that with 6D.
Yeah, 6D has a really nice disjointed hitbox. Yeah,
it basically is Tianhuo's version of a projectile. You move very fast, you cover a lot of the screen. It is bad if they get blocked, they can often punish it, but it leads to resets. Lots of stuff.
Can do
or stuff like that. Here, let me... Like that. That's a reset. There's some other stuff you can do, too.
It's a pretty good tool overall. Another thing, you can... Often as a last resort, if you have magic and you think that they're gonna anti-air you, you can often do that. Because 7D is invincible on the first frame. So you can do it really late, and then you can mix people up with the ensuing forward dash, which could cross up or not cross up depending on the way you time it, or your range. Uh-oh. That. I don't know if that was a punish or not.
I don't know either. You could I mean, either way it was a cross-up, which also makes it harder to block.
Yeah, either way they have to block you, and that is an end to neutral if they block you.
Yeah. What happens after neutral is between you and God. We can't help you with that here.
Once neutral ends, you know, it's not neutral anymore, and that's all we're talking about here, really, is neutral. All this stuff, it may seem like a mix-up, and that's kind of the whole point of neutral, is that it is a mix-up. It's just that both characters have access to all their options in neutral, and therefore it's a lot more complicated how you open people up. You have to open people up by baiting their responses to your approaches. So, yeah.
An excellent guide if you want to read more into footsies is there is a good guide about Street Fighter specifically, pinned to the the footsie handbook, pinned to the training channel in the main server, Discord server.
A lot of there's also a lot of good lessons on YouTube about footsies from like Juicebox.
But sometimes
where I got a lot of this from, I think.
Sometimes another important thing, of course, it's not only spacing but timing, as mentioned. So
yeah, the thing with neutral is that a lot of people talk about footsies as if it's like footsies in general, as if it's like some reaction-based godlike skill. But the reality of it is, a lot of it is just prediction on when your opponent's gonna do something, and a lot of times you're wrong. As with a lot of prediction stuff. It's a mixture of prediction and reaction. You think that something's gonna happen, so you mentally prepare yourself for that thing to happen, and then you react accordingly, like that.
Yeah.
And similarly to how your opponent can't focus on a million things at once, you also can't focus on a million things at once, and it really just boils down to which of you is prioritizing the right things in response to what you think the opponent's prioritizing. And it's some four-dimensional nonsense that's really hard to really wrap your mind around, but in the end it's just, you know, four-dimensional real-time chess, as I call fighting games. It's gotta predict and respond to the things that you notice, respond to habits. If someone's whiffing 6A because they think you're gonna instant air dash at them, you know, you could always, like, purposely do a tell before you instant air dash. Like, you purposely crouch real quick, and then do that. And then you start crouching, and then they 6A because they saw that quick crouch that they recognize, maybe instinctually. They're like, oh, pattern recognition, and then you get your whiff punish. Stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff.
Something you'll see a lot is, if you're in Arizona, a lot of people, like, do that before they stomp, because that's well, you have to do that before they stomp.
Yeah.
Stuff
that makes it telegraphed. That's why a lot of Arizonas will dash before they stomp, because they're hiding the crouch.
Oh, I didn't know that. That makes sense.
Or like short hop or with a button.
Yeah. Or if similar with like Paprika, she'll often, before doing a teleport or another charge move, she'll probably either like whiff a button or be crouching. Or
the classic whiff 6A into tele C.
Wow. Yeah, stuff like that.
There's, if you ever... Going back to Street Fighter, if you've ever seen, well, the motion for a fireball is a quarter circle, and that starts with crouching. So sometimes you'll see players do the quarter circle as if they're gonna throw a fireball, and then they just don't. And that'll often bait people into jumping, or something like that. Because in that game there's no air blocking, so jumps are a lot more dangerous, but they also lead to much better reward because there's no push blocking. Like, even if it gets blocked, you're in. So, you'll see people faking the motions for their neutral specials, and then baiting a response that way. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
Someone like Tianhuo, though, often doesn't use her specials in neutral.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that as much. Unless you're crazy and start trying to crash people.
The lowest to the ground crashes. Hold on. I like the TK.
You gotta TK it. Yeah, that's what I... Yeah, your TK Ash is big into the air. You can also do stuff with, in combination with the firecrackers to have really weird specials.
Oh, yeah, like that.
Or if you do downwards firecracker.
Ooh, I didn't know about that one.
Anyway, lots of interesting ways to approach, a lot of which is unsafe. And you know, there's a lot of stuff you can be exploring with Tien. When I played Tien more, I would just like to go into training mode and see all the crazy stuff I can do. But also, that's not for everyone. So I would definitely going online and just practicing these sorts of things is also a very good way to learn what's good and what's not. it's like it's the test, is if it actually works, is when you're
Oh
playing
yeah,
against other people.
true experience against other people is the best way to learn things. Oftentimes it'll feel like you're throwing things against the wall, and that's kind of how learning fighting games is you'll spam a move, not because you're bad, but because you don't know which situations it works in yet, and you'll learn through experience which situations it does work in. Like you could instant air dash a lot as Tianhuo, and you'll gradually learn when it's gonna work and when it's not. And on a similar note, if you're doing something in neutral and the opponent is constantly getting hit by it, like if they don't show you that they can deal with something like an instant air dash, then there's no reason to stop using an instant air dash against that particular opponent. Just keep doing it. You know, if they start showing that they can 6A you, then you might want to be a bit more reserved with it, but you still have to establish it just to make them want to 6A you. That way you can exploit them later for it, like that. But
Yeah,
if someone isn't responding properly, then just do it.
And it's like a cycle. You even when you get discouraged from doing something, you want to have it in your toolbox still. Not use it all the time, but sometimes using certain moves in like if you keep on like doing instant air dash and they keep on 6Aing you, like you might want to put that tool away for a little bit. But
as
soon,
they say, a stopped clock is still right twice a day.
Yeah, well, and then you could find new ways to use it and stuff. It's a lot of it's just trying if stuff works.
It kind of goes back to the whole mental stack conversation. Like, if they're so focused on 6Aing your air dashes so much, then they're not really focusing on other things, are they? And you can exploit that. And then once you distract them away from those air dashes again, you can go back into them and take them off guard, and they're like, oh, I guess I gotta start 6Aing again, and then you can smack them out of it again, and, you know. It's just the cycle of fighting games, really. At least conditioning.
Yomi.
Yes, Yomi, as they say. One of the big things when you're playing an offense-based character is a mixture of conditioning and habit reaction. Like, reacting to the other person's habits. And a lot of zoning is kind of similar to that, but it's also more proactive, in a sense. Because, like, you could try to be proactive in your neutral game. You gotta be kind of a mix of it, proactive and reactive. So, you know, sometimes you have to just dash in and do your thing. But zoning... The people who zone are the ones putting things on the screen without any real reaction, a lot of the time. They're just putting things out there and making you deal with them, while you are responding to how your opponent is dealing with things and, you know, coming up with new strategies based on that. It's good. It's cool. It's how the video game works. Uh-oh.
That's something you don't want to do in neutral until you really want to.
Until you get the big brain.
Yeah. And then once you finally hit it, you're the best Tianhuo. But not until you're the best Tianhuo.
There can only be one the best Tianhuo, and only they are allowed to do raw super and neutral. Yeah. Let's see. Are there any other cool Tianhuo strats we can talk about here? Let's see. We talked about super jump fly, which is probably one of your strongest options. When in doubt, you could try super jump flying over the opponent's head. Specifically above their head. If you're too far away, it won't be as effective because it'll be obvious which side you'll land on. But if you're above their head, you do stuff like that.
Oh, a good thing which isn't exactly neutral, but sort of related to that is if you're 1D is a really good like way of doing that specifically.
Oh, yeah. Just suddenly be over their head.
Mm-hmm. That's something Bubble likes to do a lot.
1D into flight cancel.
Yeah.
That. Yeah, I remember his Tianhuo. It's been a while.
Well, specifically what you can do is 1D backdash and then flight cancel. Since you can't flight cancel right out of 1D, but backdash is the quickest way to get out of 1D. And then once backdash is over, you can fly.
Gotcha. Can't believe Harmless is here.
Hi, Harmless.
Harmless. Let's see. Talked about how her air approach is similar to the ground game, and that you can bait stuff and punish it, and then once they're afraid to anti-air you, you can just go in and abuse your pressure that you just earned. Oh look, this isn't neutral.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to keep in mind that aerial attacks often lead to more damaging combos.
Oh yeah, especially for Tianhuo, I think. Yeah, generally her jump C is her most damaging starter. And she can definitely use it in neutral very effectively because it's got a lot of active frames and it hits all around her.
It is much slower, of course, than JA and JB.
I see.
And if your opponent is also being in the air, you know, Tianhuo's got really good air buttons. Once again, her jump C comes to mind because it's so active. Her jump B has pretty good range. Her jump A is quick.
For air-to-airs, I typically like to stick to JA just because it's the quickest. I do think that maybe using Ash might be a good way to deal with other Tianhuos.
Oh yeah, Ash is a surprisingly good air-to-air and anti-air.
It's sometimes, it's very risky though if they block it. Because you're basically always minus. If you're both in the air.
Oh yeah, if they land first. Well, it depends on the heights of you two. Yeah, that was punish.
Anyway,
see if this combos real quick. Oh.
Maybe if you can you
I'm doing the firecracker version.
Oh. Ooh. Yeah, I mean that's something to keep in mind is that aerial Ash hits quicker than grounded Ash.
It can be used to like high profile some stuff.
But typically the quickest way to high profile things is either a sudden fly or just jumping.
Tianhuo has a lot of really good high profile. Like for example, if you expect some kind of ground approach or grounded button, you can often just dodge it with one of these.
Like in an Oki situation, let me hard knock down you for a sec. Oh, well. Just, and then like do that move.
Dodges throws.
Yeah, dodges throws. And then of course, but that's not neutral. We're giving them too many tips, Candle. I mean, Koi.
No. Oh no. Yeah, we're, oh. Close.
It's a nice effect. Little grab release.
I like it. No.
It's like water.
Give me more tips. Yeah. Atlas is in the chat. He wants to know.
Hi, Atlas. So we said at the beginning, sometimes it's not a good idea to just do a full jump. But, hey, stop that.
No. This is neutral.
Okay, you're right. Sometimes it's not a good idea to do a full jump because then they could be anti-aired. But at the same time, if all you do is instant air dash to get in, you won't have your air dash to like
Pressure.
just like push block this, like push
yeah.
block the first hit.
To stay in.
Yeah, but you can do like if you like instant air dash, then you can
Stay
do
close.
that. There's lots of ways for Tianhuo to stay close once you do have them in block. You just have to experiment. Like one thing I really like, so like if they're up backing a lot and then push blocking, so like up back and push block once I put you out of hard knockdown or something. Stop that. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and then you can do that.
There you go.
That's my favorite like thing I've discovered is it combines so many of Tianhuo's stuff. It's her air dash, and then you low profile really hard with her grounded dash.
I've got backer characters on. I don't think these are allowed if backer characters are off, because they are background characters. I think they should change it from backer characters to background characters.
No, or maybe they could have two toggles, one that's backer characters and one that's non-backer background characters.
Ooh, there you go.
Ooh.
Fancy. That would make the backers feel bad.
Yeah, let's not do that.
But yeah, similarly, you can often mix up which air button you use when you're doing your approaches. For example, jump A, if they wind up blocking it, they often miss their push block chance because of how little block stun it has. Nice.
Yeah, you could do some fancy stuff, or you just get hit by it.
Yeah, jump A is fun.
And but then like the JC hits really late compared to JB and J.
Yeah,
it has like a confusing hitbox sometimes because by the time they reach you, it usually hits like very close to below them. So sometimes that can make them whiff a push block. Also, I'm not very good against other Tianhuos since I can't deal with their above you pressure.
The above you pressure. Yeah, Tianhuo's prime neutral.
Didn't mean to do that.
I did mean to do that.
Okay.
Tianhuo's prime objective in neutral is often... It's a mix of her solid ground game with her good buttons and the ability to be above you and put you into really hard to deal with scenarios. Oh my god. Anti-Tianhuo tech. The anti-above you tech. This one.
A worthy opponent.
Oh, can we like Luigi ladder up here?
I see.
I don't think it quite works that way.
Well, because we have infinite magic, so we could just kind of... This is the real neutral right here.
Meow.
Oh man.
Okay. Is this the new Dragon Ball game? Uh-oh.
I think I did one of my flips somewhere.
Okay. This is officially not
No
neutral
longer
anymore. Okay. But yeah, you know, you've got 70. 70's good. You got 60. 60's really good against, it's also really good for air-to-airs.
Not if they're both 60.
Not if they're both 60, but if someone's just, you know, another Tianhuo's super jump seeing, you're just like...
We're both trying to like do the...
No!
I didn't mean to do that.
Ruined it. You showed that crash is a good neutral tool.
No, I didn't. I never did that. Don't use crash as a neutral tool.
Oh yeah, the one thing I was gonna say about jump C, people backdash a lot in neutral, and you can catch backdashes with an instant air dash into like delayed jump C, or just like one of these, because it has enough active frames to catch the backdash no matter which part of the invuln it's at.
Oh.
I think I landed too fast there. What? I've been proven wrong multiple times. Yeah, it's because I'm too low. Oh yeah, Tian dittos. They're mirror matches. Ears.
Now it's my turn. Now it's my turn.
No. Getting leeched. Is that the new combo? Is this the new hotness?
If only level 3 was just an improved version of level 2 that had infinite magic.
Oh god.
And there was no flips, all of the moves were just one of these.
In different directions.
Yeah, because that's what she was gonna have originally, is just kicks in all of her directions. But they were like, nah, let's give her like a semi-jump.
And they cursed us with this.
Yeah. She was also originally gonna have a dash jump. So like
sort of, Ino.
Like Uno, yeah.
Uno? No, it's
I don't
Ino.
know.
It's
Ino.
It's the witch from Guilty Gear, who when she forward dashes, she goes into
Oh
the air.
yeah. Or Beowulf.
Does Beowulf do that?
Well, Beowulf does like a little hop.
Oh. Well, that's like Sasquatch from Darkstalkers more than anything.
Anyway. It was like one of those two things. I don't remember what it was planned to be. Either way, what we have now is something I think a lot nicer. The little that.
Oh yeah, speaking of the little that, one thing you can do in neutral, air dashes are kind of They're a little quick, but they usually won't catch people who are trying to block low and then react to overheads, because they are just not that fast. But if you're threatening people with 2B, and you're getting them to block low in neutral, you can often just do that instead. You can mix them up with the overhead. That's part of why the ground approach is really nice, because like while you're in the air, you can't threaten with low attacks. And that's one of the weaknesses of approaching from the air, is that like your biggest mix-up is when you're coming down and whether or not you can cross up. But on the ground, you know, you have a much better threat of, you know, you got your lows, and then you have, you know, this thing.
That. Give her a little thingy. It's important to know that Tianhuo's 2A is slightly slower than the other 2As, mostly because she has enough of a fun time. Yeah, enough air overheads that they might need to make their lows a little worse.
Yep. Give you just that extra bit of time to respond to them landing.
Yeah, because often once you're in block stun, which is not related to neutral.
Jump A, 2A as well. I can't really seem to get.
Or you could do 2A.
Yes, the classic.
There's lots of nasty stuff. I think Tianhuo actually has some really cool Oki.
Oh yeah. Part of your goal with her is to use your strong neutral tools to get that kind of blender started, because Tianhuo, she can get good damage into a hard knockdown, and then she gets really good Oki from it.
Not that. That's not good Oki. Don't do that.
It's not good Oki.
Yeah, that thing. I like to do that.
It's a good one. It's actually pretty damaging too. This is neutral. What happened? On the topic of her neutral, her slide, don't get caught whiffing it.
Yeah, she gets a little flat ear on her head, and you don't want that.
Yeah. The nice thing about it is that it advances and it's a low, and if you flight cancel it, it's plus. But
yeah,
don't get caught
so, like,
whiffing it. It's a good it's a good call when people are just, you know, doing this. What are you saying?
It's one of her many tools to negate push block.
Oh yeah, it lets her back in. Does it have pre-block? I need a back.
Yeah, let's go in the
land.
corner. I'm gonna just.
Seems like you gotta be a certain part of its animation to get pre-block.
I'll react to it.
Sure you will.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I did right there, but
yeah, it doesn't. It seems like a lot of the range 2Cs don't have pre-block, except for palms.
palms. It's very noticeable as you stand there blocking high like a fool.
Just like, oh yeah, the classic animation. But yeah. I wrote a lot of notes on the nature of footsies, and we got through all those in the first half hour. The rest of this is just, we got Tianhuo strats. In terms of another neutral thing that you have to worry about is, just because you're going for offensive neutral stuff doesn't mean the opponent can't also go for their offense-based neutral stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're, like, a lot of times you'll be fighting a character like Oleander or Velvet who is more defense-focused, and you're usually the one doing the offense-based stuff. But if you're fighting another offense-based character, you're gonna have to shift between preemptively attacking and dealing with their jumps and anti-airing them, and they're gonna have to shift to dealing with your stuff. And it's kind of, you know, a lot of the flow of neutral has to do with who is able to establish their threats better. And oftentimes Tianhuo's really good at that, but if you ever get put on the defensive, you know, it helps to be aware of what can open you up, and the best way to be aware of what can open you up is to be aware of how you can open the opponent up and then apply that to yourself. be like, oh, are they trying to bait me into whiffing my buttons? Okay, then maybe I should keep doing it anyway, or maybe stop doing it for a bit. Maybe they want to jump at me because I'm pressing so many buttons, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna anti-air you. I don't know. It's complicated because you don't know exactly what they're thinking. You can only guess based on their habits.
Something else to note is that the 6A, while it often counter hits, it adds juggle decay on the first hit, so it often leads to less damaging combos. So you got to use that to like mathematically like choose which way you're gonna approach, because getting hit with a counter hit 6A is typically better than getting hit with like a counter hit like 5B, for example.
Yeah, oftentimes anti-airs don't lead to the most damage, so jumping might be a better option sometimes.
Yeah, or in combos. I often see people use 6A a lot in combos for like every character, but often it's not the best idea. At least not a lot.
Yeah,
Depends on the character. Like Palm, like she's does her like rapid attack thing. You know what I mean?
for jumping.
No.
5B,
Like,
2B, 6A, 5B, 2B.
yeah,
That one.
that's one of the ways you want to use 6A.
This one. Let me do it as Tianhuo. That one.
Like, yeah.
It's always fun. Let's see.
Well done.
Wondering what else we could cover. It's like, you know, you can use this to call out ropes and stomps against Arizona. You can hit people out of their grounded buttons too sometimes. It's good air to air. We've got this to dodge anti-airs. We've got super jump fly to get over their heads and mess with them. You got varying your air dash timings and whether or not you super jump. If you super jump and air dash, you get a different trajectory that can lead to cross ups, so you don't accidentally do crash like a fool. And then if you stay on this side, you know.
Well done. Again. No more games. Now it's my turn.
Yeah, I was looking through the Young Lions history, and apparently we already covered neutral in the past, but I just don't remember what was said then.
No more
It was
games.
apparently
Always-
dumb.
It's good to recover it.
Yep. Especially if you're introducing specific strategies, you want to have a base to start on. I still love
Alright.
this crowd of llamas.
I'll pretend they're there on my screen. Wow, look at those
I
longas.
like the one who's watching the fight instead of the commander. I
I
still
like
don't
the
know why they're so
commander.
short.
They'll grow longer in time.
Short mouse.
As someone said in chat yesterday, they're the Longma Scouts.
They are. Along the...
Now it's
Well,
my
nice
turn.
trade.
Thanks.
No
Thanks.
more games.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Well done. Again.
Now, big
one
disclaimer here. A lot of the stuff that we talked about regarding neutral makes it seem like you can be all thoughtful and you take it slow, but
A worthy opponent.
real neutral is very hectic in this game. So a lot of the concepts that you're thinking of aren't gonna happen in
Yeah.
a time frame where you're gonna actually be able to react and like think about them for longer than a split second. This is the kind
Yeah.
of thing that you have to ingrain into your gameplay naturally.
And something often anime games, they more of a focus on the timing aspect of footsies than the spacing aspect. So like, let's say we're like both right next to each other and we want to hit each other with like 5A, and like if I do it early, it'll beat someone who's doing it like in a medium speed. So
Yeah.
imagine you're having like a paprika kiss battle or something.
Or if we're both forward dashing and 5Bing at the same time, it kind of just comes down to who does it first.
Yeah. Or sometimes if we're at certain spaces, like who does it later.
Yep, which is with punishing, you know. And sometimes you can do these things on purpose, but other times, you know,
You just have to pretend you did it on purpose anyway.
Scrambles are wacky.
Alright. Well, do we have anything else to talk about?
I don't have anything written down. I know that there is a beginner's tournament happening in 45 minutes, so it might be good to actually put it. I don't... Do we still do the viewer matches? I kind of forgot about that. I don't know if it's necessary. Because, beginners are gonna be fighting in the Blue Cup anyway. Check that out. Alright, no viewer matches this time. Besides, we've already seen plenty of Tianhuo mirrors. Oh man. So, I guess now is our promotion time, while, Dem shows off his pressure here. So, there's gonna be a beginner's tournament called Blue Cup happening in 45 minutes here. Next weekend is the Magic Series, 2020, first tournament of the year. That's gonna be fun. I think, Right. I'll have to think about that next time. I think there's still... How many slots are left in the Magic Series bracket?
There was like 6 last time I checked.
6 slots left? There's 42 people?
That's from last time I checked a couple hours ago.
There's 6 slots left, and there's also, you can be put on the waiting list if anyone doesn't show up. So, if you're interested in signing up, do it. Even if you don't think you're gonna win the tournament, a lot of the tournament experience is just, you know, fighting against players that you wouldn't fight before, in a very different environment than you're used to.
Yeah, isn't it something like 25% of players go 0-2?
Yeah, it's, you know, it happens to everyone. Everyone's gone 0-2 at least once in their lives, often way more than once in their lives. Nothing to be ashamed of, just, you know, have fun, participate for a little bit. If you get knocked out, then you just enjoy the rest of the tournament and watch the hype matches unfold.
And always cheer for the person who knocked you out. That's what I always do.
That's the strat. If you lose, you gotta give the winner your energy. Oh my god. Help! I'm being pressured. Peer pressure, peer pressure, peer pressure, peer pressure.
This is what it feels like to be against Tianhuo.
It really is though. Get away! Get her off of me! Reminds me of that K9 who made that video.
He might
It's
have.
like the guy yelling, "Get her off of me!" It's like, oh yeah, machine gun, level 2 jump A. No, this is worse. Because at any time he could just whiff a grab and go low.
Oh yeah, whiff grab is something crazy you can do sometimes. Oh my god, that wasn't even a whiffed grab. Oh, another
We both didn't grab that time.
That's the real mix-up.
Oh, this is footsies.
Now it's my turn.
Don't punish like that. Another thing you can do, of course, is some stuff like backdash.
That was a nice negative edge crash I got there.
Yeah, that was a nice purposeful. Oh man, that's something we need. We need like crash footsies. Except it won't work because then people can just decide not to jump at all.
I mean, crash footsies, if you fight with only crash, it comes down to predicting when their crash is going to happen, and then you just would punish it with your crash.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you can reaction crash a crash.
Well, yeah, but that's footsies, you know?
Yeah.
Can't react in it.
There we go.
This is footsies.
Oh, no.
Also, there's port priority, if you didn't know that.
There's port priority on crash.
Yeah.
God. Nice footsies. You gotta do TK crashes so that you can't react to them.
You have like... Oh shit.
No more games.
Oh no!
I see.
Oh, I
Said
swore.
the
I'm not allowed to
word.
do that.
Okay. It's okay. I think we're past the point where, the rest of this would even go on YouTube. I already
Yeah.
did the closings, more or less. So. Yeah, we're more or less done. I'll just edit that before I send it over to the YouTube man.
Yeah.
At the whenever we finish talking about TMS. But yeah, I don't know. I think we covered everything I thought would be able to be covered. Obviously, there's a lot more stuff you could do in depth
Now it's my turn.
in neutral. It's just, this is basically a pretty good introduction to it all with what you can do with Tianhuo specifically with her airborne game. Can't cover it all in an hour, but we can at least give you a good starting ground. I've also got my page of notes that I will probably post to like the training channel or something like that. And that way people can see what we went off of for this. We actually set it so it's not set to edit. Ew. Yeah. Join us next weekend for the Magic series. It'll be fun.
Maybe you'll see some good Tianhuo players play.
Yeah. Me and Dem are frauds.
Yeah,
We're
I
not
play
good.
Paprika.
Yeah, he's a Pat main and I'm
Bear
Bear
main.
question mark. Da-na-na-na.
Now that'd be a fun tournament. One person is the bear and everyone else is just normal characters. And we'll
God.
see who goes through bracket if the bear can manage to get all the way through.
Yeah, the cheater bracket.
Yeah, or they just have like their health, set to the number of players in the tournament, and they never refill. So it's like just like salt mines.
You mod salt mines so that the health doesn't go down over time. And everyone does their matches.
Yeah, that might be in like server options actually. I think you can set some of those things.
Cool. Oh, I'm using my fuzzy guard. Oh, it didn't work. Alright. Yep, I think we're out of things to talk about. So
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
alright.
close it out here. Thanks for stopping by, all the people.
You fight well.
Check out the Glue Cup in 30 minutes. Check out TMS next weekend. And yeah, see you next time.